you too. You are a sight for sore eyes. Look at you. Oh my goodness. It's just great to see you. So everybody who's joining us, this is my beloved Olivia Mitchell Porter and Andrew Calvetti, who, looking around my office, I think I have more pictures of you than anybody else, and including this gem. Do you see that?
Wow. Yeah.
So that's Andrew and Olivia dressed as twins, I think,
Yeah.
outside Old Main 24. And then that's Olivia in The Importance of Being Earnest, being who? Who's
Gosh, Lady Bracknell.
Lady who?
Lady Bracknell, I think it was.
Yeah, right. Well, that profile shot is like the best picture in the world. So I get to look at you every day, but it's incredible. I mean, we're not in person, but seeing your beautiful faces on my screen is pretty wonderful too.
I think Liv's beautiful face is maybe frozen right now. At least
it throws on an okay moment.
It was a great moment to freeze on.
Well, everybody, Andrew Calvetti is the king of these videos because he is the one who, now Olivia, you've gone, there you go. Bingo. So Andrew's the one who's made the intro and outro for these, just for this Longing to Know video interview series. And Andrew is a film producer and has been since before he graduated from Geneva College. And at Geneva, you were my TA. And Olivia, also, you were my TA too. I don't know who was first or whatever. I do remember Olivia saying to me, I'm looking forward to you meeting my friend Andrew. I remember that. And I think I maybe had already met Andrew in under another costume. If I may say so, but I remember Olivia, you're saying that. So you guys have been friends since before I really, was blessed to be involved with you. So, hello.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So we're talking about Longing to Know, which is celebrating its 20th birthday, which is unbelievable, and we're making a little festivity to mark that milestone, and that's what these video interviews are about. And so I have two questions for you. One is what your involvement in the story is, if you'll share that with everybody, and then secondly, your estimate of what its value is 20 years out. So Olivia, I've seen less of you than I've seen of Andrew. So let's start with you. And can you remember back and tell us a little bit about your involvement in the story of Longing to Know?
Yeah, so I have a strange college experience in that I took a gap from a car accident that I was in and a head injury that I had, and I forgot a lot of things. Oh. And so when I was going back to this, I had to actually look at some notes I had from college, and it was a really good experience to kind of revisit it again. And it made me realize that my experience reading through it was very communal. I think I would say I had so many people around me. I remember I read this the semester before my car accident, and so it's interesting because I think that it had really implanted some values into me that I hadn't even realized were so important. And one of those was trust. As I was thinking back through the book, this idea it's risky. Knowing is risky. And I had to relearn a lot. Reading was difficult. Making my way through life was difficult. And I had people like Andrew there helping me. Some of my first memories coming back into reality were with Andrew in the contemplation room in that little house. That was such a cold house. We were all there.
It was.
Yeah, we did all our homework there, and it was a good time. But I really had to trust those around me and trust the reality around me, and I think it made a really big difference in my recovery. Honestly, some of those fundamentals The other one is embodiment. And I think I'll fast forward ahead a little bit, because to like know something is risky. And I think about Andrew and my friendship, where was it last year you lived with us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it was a scary thing for both of us to
Yeah.
live together, because Andrew was wanting to buy a house and needing to find a new place to live. And so we're like, just live at our house for a little while. And I think it was a challenge for me. And I was thinking back to Longing to Know, because we ended up discussing this, but we both just kind of were like, well, we believe in hospitality. We believe in like all these things that we're going to do with each other to support each other through this. And yeah, so embodiment in terms of knowing. We knew we would get through it. We just kind of had to do it, and live into it. So anyway, that was a lot all jammed in one, and a lot of years all jammed in one. But that's what I was reflecting on.
So your accident happened on the eve of the semester that you were going to start TAing for me. So was it a year later then that you were back and able to TA? But that was, all of us that know you just get a kind of a ache in the pit of our stomach when we think of that horrific thing for you and Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it was timed well in terms of leaving my heart and mind gearing up to handle something like that. And I think that book was a very pivotal thing. I made these little clay figures. We had to embody knowing, and I wanted to learn how to throw.
Was this your
project? Yeah, my project.
Oh, wow.
I threw on a
yes, I remember this.
I sculpted these little dinosaur bodies with human heads, and I never went back to finish them and get them glazed, but I still have them prominently on my shelf.
I've wondered for years where those came from.
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
Had you had Christian understanding of life like immediately prior to the accident?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I did that project in December. The accident was beginning of January. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, Andrew, your name has been, you have been named in Olivia's story. Dive in and add your response to this.
Yeah, so I was supposed to take the class the semester that Liv was going to be the TA, and I did take it. That semester, it was in the spring, and when I sort of try to go back in time and inhabit that space, it's really strange, just because there wasn't the kind of like physical trauma of a car accident, but it was a time of a lot of emotional turmoil. I think that book was sort of the first thing to put a name on the fact that my like foundational assumptions about how I interacted with the universe were faulty. And that was based on the other things that I'd read in like high school, and even on the front end of my like undergrad, just a lot of
your faulty approach to the universe.
Yeah,
based on other things you'd read.
Yeah. I was like reading Descartes for fun, and it wasn't fun, so I stopped. But I was very much in the camp of like, there has to be certainty. If there isn't certainty, then I'm not empowered to live well if there isn't certainty. And so I was really I was all chips in on the idea of there being an absolute truth that was separate from me, that was unchanged by my existence, you know, that was completely external. And that way of living was creating a lot of dissonance for me. And I was starting to see how it was hurting other people. And so the experience of reading this book was very scary. And there was, I remember a week in particular where Casey Main was the TA who jumped in when Livy wasn't available. And he said he was very kind, and said, there's a point we're coming up to in this book where it's going to get tough. And you just need to stick with it a little bit. And I did. And it was very hard to just start to think of myself as having a little bit of agency in this thing called knowing, you know, which that in itself, I think, just sort of underscores the severity of the default that I was in, which is that agency was scary. Here I was looking at the idea of being empowered to live by something like certainty. I was hanging my hat on the idea of certainty as like, this is the thing that catalyzes me to be effective in life. And the idea of my own agency was like not an option. Yeah. That was how far I had distanced myself from my own experience of knowing. So it was a time of, you know, things breaking in, the real showing up, and the lessons that were learned in that class were really they were only named there. Something that Liv and I talked about years later was like, we don't necessarily, sometimes we do, but like, we don't necessarily use the textbook language, you know, of your epistemological therapy. Like we don't necessarily, like, we're not thinking about that vocabulary necessarily all the time, but like we're always living from it, you know.
It frees you up. It frees you up to yourself.
Yeah. There's a lot more that could be said there, of course. But that's what stood out to me as I recall that first experience reading, is it was the just light breaking into a really dark place.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. Well, I have to say, speaking of light, where Olivia, at the point in the course where she was making clay figures, Andrew locked himself in Old Main overnight and painted a glow-in-the-dark galaxy on the ceiling of my room, which was part of your project report, which is why I now call you the Galactic Andrew Calvetti, and also really is kind of behind why there's a galaxy on the front of Contact with Reality, because you were the guy that told me how many million run-ons needed to be fixed.
Oh yes.
But anyway, yeah. So the clay to the stars. I mean, that's great span between you.
I had to hide from the security guard under a desk.
Did you really? Oh, that's incredible. And Olivia, you helped secrete him in there, didn't you? That's what I recall the story was, that you helped him hide away.
There was some crossover there.
I had made a habit of sneaking in there, so.
I knew it was possible, you know.
Well, everybody, you're looking at two of the most creative people in the world. And they happen to be friends, which kind of doubles the trouble, right?
Yeah.
All right, so 20 years out. I mean, it's a lot, I think, to ask. And I'm sorry, obviously I've put you up to this, but 20 years out, when especially when there's been incredible change, not only in the world but in your lives. I mean, think about the age span that 20 years means for you. Do you have any sense of longing to know's value today and going forward?
I was thinking a lot about this question while cleaning my floors, actually. It's a good time to think. I was mopping. But I think right now, like, 12 years ago or whatever, when I read it, hadn't lived all that long. And I've not lived that much longer since, but I've learned a lot. And I think what makes it more valuable now is what really has happened over the last 3 years of my lifetime. Sure, a lot happened before I read the book, but I think the false dichotomy between faith and knowing or fact now is larger and more felt than it ever has been for people in my generation. I think when I read the book, I was like, modernity, what is that? Like trying to figure it out. But now in our media, we speak in terms of like science is fact and, religion is over here. And we have all these camps around this that are so entrenched. People are more skeptical, at least in my circle, people are more skeptical. And I think they're more open to spirituality is the term that we're saying. And so I think that there's this beautiful answer, I guess. Answer is too simple a word. Journey, I don't know. But there's a reality in these books that I think is more felt for readers right in this moment.
Oh, that's so neat.
Yeah.
Great. Andrew.
My thoughts on this, I'll start broad and go personal. There's been some interesting creative journalism, just sort of tracking down this really interesting phenomena of our time, which is compounded by globalization and internet, and now the things that we're seeing with artificial intelligence and lots of different things. There's, I think, a pretty strong undercurrent where people are tempted to surrender to the notion that they cannot access reality, that there are too many barriers to that set up through systems of manipulation and oppression and confusion. I think that is a strong point for the enduring value of this work, because of how it deals in the knower. I think it's really important for people like me and the people that I interact with on a daily basis to know that, like, their existence what am I trying to say here? That it's possible because they're there. It's possible to know reality simply because you are there, and you've been given the chance to be there. You can invite it, and I think the where I see that personally is 11 years after reading it, like a lot has fallen apart and a lot has felt that it moved on. A lot of things that, institutions or like sort of pillars that I was really confident in, time has just shown that like my road goes beyond those things. Different understandings of what faith means for me, of what spirituality means to me, and how I relate to people, ethics, and a lot of things have changed. That landscape is really different now, and I think because I've been able to foster my own sense of agency and personhood, I actually feel that I'm closer to what faith really means now, and I'm a lot there's fewer barriers between me and reality, which is it's such a freeing feeling, and there's so much panic and stress that's lifted because of these things and these ways of coming to know the world. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for letting me stumble through that. There's more.
Oh, no, absolutely. Do you want to keep going, or did you have something else you wanted to say, or?
It might come to me, but
Okay.
Continue.
Well, I would move toward wrapping up, but you're making a film all on your own, in addition to, the working for Vinegar Hill, is it?
Yeah.
And Olivia, what is your line of work these days? I mean, I know who you are and I know exactly what you would be doing in it. I just don't know what the job title is at the moment.
Yeah, no, so I'm doing sales operations right now. I help companies use their technology to be more efficient and effective, and I'm good at connecting those, do a lot of training around that. So right now I'm working different contract jobs doing that, and then I'm also helping my brother with his mushroom farm. So
Yes, the mushroom farm.
yeah, so I've been doing his marketing and sales there.
Oh, that's very cool. Guys, I just can't tell you how much I love you, and I'm so glad I live near you and I can get at you, even, well, it takes a little work, but I can get to you.
It's not too far.
So I love it that you've both been to see me here in Steubenville too. So I really love that. It's like I look at you and I think I loved teaching, but I love better not teaching and now being friends with the people I used to teach with. So you matter so much to me. Thank you so much for sharing about this. And God bless Longing to Know for another 20 years. And God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, you guys.